I was always trying to get more from time management and time blocking. And I remember, Michael, it really started going downhill when I started training to sleep 4 hours a night. And
Whoa.
that's what I knew something had to change because it just wasn't sustainable. Now, what I do is I partner with organizations, specifically their talent development and their learning management
Hmm.
divisions, and we create seminars and workshops on productivity, time management. More and more, we're talking about internal mobility. That is, how do we take the best that they're hiring, and whether it's a large Fortune 100 company or a entrepreneurial startup here local in Ventura County, they're seeking out the best employees, the best staff they can find, but instead of training them to leave, we want them to train to grow. Right now, Michael, we have four generations working together in the workplace.
Wow.
Uh, I've got a good friend of mine who works at a department store, a Macy's department
Yeah.
store, and she shared with me that come this holiday season, when they do their temporary hiring, they're going to have 18, 19, 20-year olds. And on the other side, they've got people who are past retirement age, but they still like working.
Yeah.
So you have this range of 20 to call it 65, and just the mindset of those people. So in the next book that comes out called Your Best Just Got Better, it's one of the things that I explore is people's mindset that they bring to a productive day. And what I do in the book, Michael, is we go through three areas. We talk about working smart, then we talk about thinking big, and then we talk about making more. And what we found is, in my research, is those three things happen in that order. That is,
Hmm.
someone who's setting a big goal, who wants to think big, if, and you know this, if their inbox is out of control, if they've got things all over the place, if their mind is full with everything that they have to do, that is, if they're not working smart, they can't think big. It's just not mentally or physically possible. And so the title of the book, Your Best Just Got Better, actually, Michael, that was the title of my blog going back
Yeah.
6, 7 years. Had no idea, by the way, that that would ever become a book title. It was just the people who I was spending my time with, quite frankly, they were the best.
Yeah.
And again, you know this, having attended summits and conferences, it seems like the people who are the best are the ones who continually go back for education, they go back for training, they go back for coaching. It's really not a matter so much of doing more, but what some people recognize is what they're doing. And maybe Marcus Buckingham is a good person to bring into the conversation, where he talks about strengths
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
working to our strengths, but more importantly, working on our strengths.
Hmm.
One of my clients is an international bank, and their spokesperson is Roger Federer, the tennis
Wow.
player.
Yeah.
And one of the presentations I saw with Roger was, and he was talking about, as tennis players, do they find a coach to help them find what their weaknesses are and make those stronger, or find a coach who sees what their strength is and make that better?
Yeah.
And his comment, I'll always remember, Michael. He said, if you work on your weaknesses, you might be an all-around good tennis player, but you
Hmm.
won't be dangerous unless you work on your strengths. That's something that I hope that people take away with Your Best Just Got Better. Might not be doing things extremely differently, but
Yeah.
it may be doing what comes naturally a little bit
Jason,
more.
um, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Like, for example, you were with the David Allen Company, right? And then you decided to go on your own. Why happened? What happened there?
It goes back to a couple things that we've talked about so
Hmm.
far. So I started off as a high school teacher.
Yeah,
Actually, I
yeah.
started off as a junior high school teacher,
Yeah.
and then I went to high school. And while I was going through that process, I started studying time management, Franklin
Hmm.
Covey and Day Runner and
Yeah,
Daytimer. I got a Palm Pilot in
yeah.
1997. And then I met David Allen,
Mm-hmm.
who he was doing his seminar called MAP at the time, was Managing
Mm-hmm.
Actions and Projects.
Okay.
And I went to that seminar in late 1997,
Mm-hmm.
1998, 1999. In 1999, David and I had a conversation, and I created a class for my high school students on productivity.
Wow.
We
It's really
called
cool.
it Pathfinders Action and Ambition Management for Teens.
Cool.
And my thinking was, there was these 16 and 17-year-olds. I was teaching sophomores and juniors, is
Yeah.
that level here in the States. And they had a lot of energy. They had a
Yes.
lot of enthusiasm. They were getting a lot of information. And so I wanted to create something that put that all together. It
Yeah.
went really well. I could tell you stories about that. But
I
the
imagine.
next thing that happened is David's book was coming out, the
Right.
Getting Things Done.
You teach me.
And so I joined up as a facilitator of the seminars and a coach. And over the next 5 years, I presented 400 GTD seminars around the world.
Wow.
I was a senior trainer with that firm. And then what wound up happening is I became, Michael, I became much more interested in the process of performance
Mm-hmm.
independent of a tool, of
Good.
a specific system, if you
Mm-hmm.
will. Now, on one side, it was very liberating because I could walk into a client office and we could be very open and free about how do we solve this performance and productivity problem. On the other side, there needs to be, and I found this, there needs to be some foundation, some system that they use. And so that's what we've been working on over the past 60 months is
Perfect.
creating this in concert with clients. If someone asks me, Jason, what's your business plan?
Yeah.
I give you my 3-step business plan: show up, do good work, stay in touch.
I read somewhere that 80% of success is just showing up.
And what we can do, and one of the things I teach is underneath each one of those 3
Yeah.
ideas are several indicators: showing up on time, showing up prepared, showing up culturally aware,
Yeah.
showing up demographically aware. I've done seminars in different communities where I was the only one like me in the room.
So Jason, I'm sure that this new endeavor must be like as we can see very, very cool. And then for you personally, so tell me, because I'm sure, I mean, in my case it's been the same, that when you start something new, it takes lots of energy from you, and then you because you love it so much and there's so much passion behind it. So how do you balance then for your family life, your
Absolutely. And I was just going to go there,
Yeah.
Michael, thank goodness for what I call Team Jason.
Yeah.
And Team Jason is this small cadre of people who they get me, they understand me, they support me, but I think most importantly is they push me. And what I've done is I've surrounded myself by people who understand that I'm here for a big purpose, and they don't, how do I say it? They don't give me a hard time.
Okay.
What I mean by that is when I tell some people about how much I do and what I do, one of the first things some people say is, "Oh my goodness, when do you relax?" Or, "Don't you ever do nothing?" And because of that question, by the way, I've been working on this for a while, but I'm working on a small white paper, or maybe it's a manifesto. But what I want to write about is the difference between doing nothing and doing one thing.
Yeah.
And it's very, very subtle when you change those letters around. But doing one thing is like doing nothing to me. Other things that I do to keep myself engaged, I race triathlon during the summer.
Wow.
And I train 10 months a year with a plan. And then October and November each year are my off months. But that always gives me something to perform toward.
Yeah.
And this is something that, I would encourage anybody listening to this, whether it's business or personal or health or finance. because I race every month from April until September, every 30 days I have a race, I always have a next thing to train toward.
Right.
And I think that's significant, especially with those of us who have jobs or careers or lives that are always on.
Right.
You know, I'm thinking about working with parents. You know, when I work with parents or spouses, they're going to be a parent for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And so being able to chunk that down and saying, okay, well, here's the next, call it a milestone, call it an achievement, call it a goal. But by having that next thing in sight, not long time away, that's where we're ultimately going, but in sight, I think is critical to high performance and productivity. So the three things for me to answer the prompt: one is surround yourself by people who understand you.
Yeah.
That support you, that will push on you, that will encourage you. The second one is look at the physical sustainability environment. Companies are talking about CSR, right? Corporate social responsibility.
Right.
I'm looking at ISR, individual social responsibility.
Right.
If I don't rest, if I don't take care of my body, I'm just not fun to be around. I know that. And then I think the third one that I would take a look at is, and I was speaking at a university yesterday, and a student asked me the same question, Michael. And I responded back and I said, I think the most important thing is that you clarify your so that. Call it purpose, call it raison d'etre, call it your why. In my book, in one of the chapters, I explore this concept of so that. And when I clarify that, when I understand that, things seem to show up to support me in that direction.
Yeah, cool. That's really, that's exactly. Yeah, and also the thing that people tend to make these imaginary goals that they think,
Right.
I'm gonna lose 20 pounds in 1 year. Yeah, but if you don't have this, like you said you have this one race every month, so that there's always this small thing that you're looking forward, and then people are afraid to take these baby steps because they are afraid they might succeed, And then this is something I've been talking to people about, that once you get a little bit more organized, you feel a little bit lost, because then you know how much time you actually have. And when you are not organized, you're like, I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be just going with the flow. But when you get a little bit more organized, get your inbox to zero, and then you know how much time everything takes. Like, okay, so maybe planning this for tomorrow is not really realistic. And then you start going, and then realizing your boundaries, realizing where you should be heading.
I cannot wait for you to see a copy of my book, Michael, because many of the things you just said, I explore in detail in several of the chapters. So you and I are on the same page.
Oh yeah.